Oh, I see the little red button on the screen. It says on air. That means, man, it is about time to start this Teague's Take thing up. Man, we got a good one lined up today. We got some film coming up here shortly. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to talk about these. It could get a little. JT and I won't. We won't make it too complex because we want everybody to learn what's going on. But it's just hard when you're playing against yourself and you're trying to critique an offense that might be good, but then the defense doesn't look good, or defense looks good and then the offense doesn't look good. So we got to stay balanced there. So we're going to talk about 4 or 5 plays um, first, and then we're going to have a very special guest, Charlie Potter, coming on today to give us some updates on the portal. Right, it's going to be really important. How's the recruiting going with DeBoer? What does it look like between now and August for the Crimson Tide? So without further ado, because we want to get to this film right away, because we're going to need the time, I think we need to start Teague's Take right now. JT, I sure hope I didn't say Porter instead of Potter. Charlie. Well, you got it right. It sounded really good. I still love that thing. We've been rolling with that for some years. And I don't think we need to change it, but maybe y'all in the chat need to tell us if we need to change up the intro or something of that nature. I don't know. I just kind of like that a lot. Knowing that I would have a good run out for you guys. Run out meaning I'm giving some kind of talking points or something, was something motivational or something about the pros or college or just personal or whatever it is. I don't want to do that today because I feel like we need to get to this film. We've been off of the film for JT. It seems like it's almost been like a month or something. Yeah, so we need to get to that because I think what we need to talk about is that. So, thank you all for being in the chat, coming in, listening to us. Don't forget you need to be able to subscribe to our channel. Thank you to the Bama Standard for being great hosts and allowing us to do multi-stream on both platforms. So if you are over on the Bama Standard channel, welcome aboard. Thank you for being a Teagster and supporting us as well. Make sure you hit that subscribe button over there on their side to give them a like throughout the entire show because it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good one. All right. So, JT, you and I spent a lot of time talking right after the A-Day game. And it may seem like, how long ago was that? Good Lord. 2, 3 weeks? Yeah. Okay. And so, you know, uh, shout out to Ryan Fowler and those guys for allowing me to come in and actually sit in the studio with him. That was pretty cool. It was cool to be sitting on the media side and try to watch the game. It's quite different, JT, up in the press box than it is in the stands. A lot of typing going on, a lot of business stuff going on up there. And I was really trying to figure out what are they writing down because I'm charting plays and carries and things. So it was pretty cool to be able to do that. But afterwards, there were some pretty interesting things that I thought that I saw um, in the game. And we talked about it on my ride back going. So are you about as hyped as I am about trying to watch these plays, or is it just me? I just get excited, man, when we're getting ready to show some film. You know, is that I don't. Okay, so what I'm talking, what JT is saying is he's trying to do his producer work behind the
Oh,
scenes right now.
is that it? Can people hear me now? Thumbs up in the chat. Maybe one's in the chat. I don't know.
So some
I
hearts
see
pop up.
green bars now. So still no audio for JT. Oh, Carmen is reading says yes. So
So
one
you hit
person
a
says
button.
they can hear me.
Well, I got to go back to the Bama Standards host comment said I would not buy him a drink at the grandstand. False. I actually, because Troy and I spent a good chunk of money over there, but you know what, man? I just gave him since he brought it up and he can't really defend himself. This might not be fair, but he was kind of big timing me, man, a little bit. You know, he had
Who?
his little
Justin?
Justin. Yeah, so I got to meet Justin in person. He ain't really I don't know. He felt like he didn't really want to talk to me at first, you know, because he had his boys. Boy Scarborough was with him. You know, Marvin was around, and all the guys were around, and you know, he had his little crew, and so I just had to go walk up on him and be like, "Say, man, you ain't gonna say nothing to me at all," you know. So, but anyway, he eventually that's a fabrication. Is he calling me a liar on my own little show?
Well, he's surely not calling you for dinner.
You know, so that's how it was though. That's okay. That's okay. But you know, he didn't give me any updates on when they were out at the Bryant Museum. I had to just like try to pick all kind of stuff. I was like, man.
John is instigating.
Oh yeah, John O was there. He knows. He can vouch. He can vouch. He knows who I was sitting over there standing with.
Oh,
Because
that's crazy.
I even told John O who Justin was. I introduced them to each other. So whatever. I'm not gonna get him. Man, let's get into this film,
Okay.
man. I know you said you wanted to, I don't know, hold on and start some beef real fast. Okay, so this first one we want to talk about right here. Again, JT, we got to be. I know how you look. So JT's in the middle of spring football practice, so he's watching film, watching guys practice, and all that stuff is heavy out here in Texas. I don't know about spring football in other states, but man, it's a pretty big deal out here. So he is definitely in football mindset mode as far as scheming. Right? He just made his new playbook. It's all pretty, and he put that on my dime at the school. I got to talk to him
Oh
about
my God.
that for a
No,
little bit. You know what? What do you mean?
that's not what happened.
No.
This is not.
That is what happened. You are Justin in the same boat over here trying to.
No, because I asked my immediate boss, and he said it was fine. So you need to talk to the guy that you hired.
Well, I'm just saying, man. You know, all that color paper. Anybody that does any kind of printing know that colored things are very expensive per page,
That
and that
is
book's not that.
that's true.
I know because you did it all yourself previous year.
Yeah, and
Okay,
it only did one, and it cost me like $100.
yeah. And how many did you get this year?
Well,
Oh, now you can't talk. Now you stuttering. No, you can't
I
talk.
did, and there were some test ones printed. That wasn't on me. That's why I asked. I was
Can
gonna
you
get it
answer the
bound somewhere
question?
else.
Can you answer the question?
How
How
many
many did you
did I?
print?
Did you ask me how many I asked for, or how many got printed?
How many got printed?
There may or may not have been 7 that got printed.
Okay. Well, anyway. All right. Alabama Nation, thank you for being here and getting ready to talk about this. Okay. So the first thing, I think this is actually the very first play of the game.
Yeah,
And
I
the
think so.
reason why I chose this because we didn't see a lot of two back gun split back in the past. Do you remember much of that
No,
two
no,
buck?
not like this. This is actually, at least offensively, I thought this was great.
Yes.
This play in particular.
Let's kind of talk through it a little bit. Okay, so we used to call this I can't remember what we called it. It was a Queens set. Thinking of the pros, meaning there's no tight end, 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs. Okay, so it creates matchups, and depending on who your running backs are, you got to figure out if he's going to be in the slot or something else. So think of, to me, if you're thinking about pros, think of like San Francisco, having McCaffrey back there with another running back because they could actually put McCaffrey out wide, or if you had a Reggie Bush, or even if you had a Jameer Gibbs,
Mhm.
right, and another running back that can go out there and line up. So that's one thing. The defense, JT, this is what we thought we were kind of going to see, right? 4-2, your safety's kind of condensed at the bottom.
Yeah, you got a safety walk down, which we actually do this a lot. We don't show it like this all the time, but we do this.
We as in JP2.
Yes, we do this a lot because there's no second receiver out here. There's not a lot of space, and you're actually kind of worried about exactly what happens right here. I don't think we particularly did a good job defensively. I didn't really look at what the linebackers were doing. I was really more concerned about this receiver and how good of a job he ends up doing. Um, I don't know if I'm going to give him credit to say that it was actually a push crack. I think it was man over here, and Xavier Brown just went with him, and he went and just cracked the safety. But the results are the same.
Time. Just because I need for you to break that down. I know what you're talking about when you're talking about push crack. You probably want to explain that for people that don't know what
Yeah.
we're
So
talking about.
a push crack is a way for a receiver to essentially block two people. And in this case, he doesn't have to do that because one of the backs out of the backfield is actually going to lead block. But a push crack kind of looks like this. You're going to push the corner to get him to back up, yes, but also to kind of lull him into having to cover you. And you're going to run a slant basically to this safety. So the idea is that you're going to have this corner cover you on the slant while you're actually going to go block this safety right here. And that's kind of what ends up happening. Even though, like I said, when we watch it, it doesn't actually look like he pushes and then cracks. It looks like he just goes right here, right now. And it might be because of man coverage that Xavier Brown ends up running with him. But like I said, the result's the same. You get the corner over here and the safety over here, and then the back is able to just lead block on the corner.
Yep.
And you get this.
Very good explanation. And one of the things I'll say that you do have to be concerned with, what you'll see a little bit later on one of our other plays, is because that when you have condensed splits by those wide receivers, they actually run a route over to the other side of the field. So I don't know if you call it an over route or a crossing route, but where they're heading diagonally across the field trying to get 12 yards deep on the other hash. Yep, something like that. So the corner does have to cover that. Okay.
Yeah, well, you got to play on this a little bit. I don't know what order it is, but it's on here because
Yes,
that's
that's what I'm
exactly
saying.
what happens.
That's exactly what happens. So the corner has to play honest, and he just can't let him go and pretend that it's, or like he knows that it's run, unless he's actually looking at the lineman. All right, so we're gonna let this play go. There's a lot involved in it. Let's look at the offensive side first. All right, you good with that, JT?
Mm-hmm.
And the design of this, because you got a lead blocker, as you said, with the tailback at the bottom. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Yeah, please keep it right there, because all the linemen are blocking back except the guard who pulls. So, JT, I need for you to kind of talk to me about that a little bit, because this is a read. Maybe, I don't know. Is this an outside run, or is this where it gets confusing? you know, is it a trap with the other running back, or is it the possibility that Milroe could pull the ball and follow the puller?
I don't know. So if you're asking me if there's a possibility that Milroe can pull this and then follow the puller, that would make it more like veer, right?
All right.
And I don't think so. I don't think that this doesn't. I don't know. His eyes look like Milroe's helmet looks
He's
like it could
looking
be
it.
veer, I don't see it here. But it could be because I mean the ball ends up hitting outside, and I'm trying to remember what this guy actually does. Um,
Well,
because I don't think that he spills the puller.
which
I think
guy?
he the
No, he
defensive end.
doesn't. He squeezed down. He doesn't even get blocked.
Yeah, I
He
think he
ends up
just
ending
kind of
up
like
chasing him.
boxes the puller, and like if they wanted to, they could just kick him out, and then
I
you
think
got.
they're reading. I think they're reading him. That's what we'll
Mhm.
let the folks say. It looks like they're reading him, and the puller's coming around for the backer. You know, and that it's going to be an outside run. That's what I think. Which is a very very well designed play on the offensive side. It's definitely there's no RPO piece. All the wide receivers are blocking, so they're gonna hand it off. All right. So I like the design of the play is the main thing. It is a little bit different type of run scheme than we've seen in the past from Alabama. It is confusing. Confusing is probably not the right word. You got to be really sound with this because this type of running game can't. Well, that's what exactly what you're talking about, right? He blocked two.
Yeah, he's able to block two, and then once he comes off, there's another blocker coming that actually accounts for both of these guys. And if you're reading the end, which I have to agree, you're probably right because they didn't touch him, and it's not like he didn't see him, you know.
Right.
So he's going up to
Right.
the linebacker. So yeah, you read this guy, you don't have to block him. You have the extra guy on the corner. He steps down probably a little bit too far, and then you're able to get outside.
Because your left tackle also goes up for the other backer. That's why I think. I mean, if he pulled it, everybody's blocked in the box other than the end man on the line of scrimmage. So if
Right.
he's
And
out
you're
too
you're
wide,
saying the crease, like if you wanted to keep it, is right there.
yes, because they're all good. So I think that's pretty good from the offensive side. So let's flip hats to the defensive side because I know we got to be pretty quick here since we're supposed to have Charlie Potter in
He's
here
already
about
in here.
the.
He's backstage.
Oh, he's checking out what we're talking about, huh? He's getting his learn on a little bit. Okay, so from the defensive side, I mean, what do you do? I mean, the only thing you can ask for better is what you said, the crack replace, maybe, or
Yeah, I mean the crack replace has to be a bit better. I mean, depending on like what his actual assignment is in coverage. Like this is
he's out of there too far.
I
Ain't
know, right? He's already 17 yards off the ball. And I would be saying, hey, look, like this guy's in a bind because he's going to be wrong. Like if he takes the back, the quarterback's keeping it and going underneath. If he plays the quarterback, he's getting flanked outside. So you need the extra man in the box, and he happens to be almost out of the frame. And you got a hat on a hat. So I mean, really,
kudos
you
to the offense. That you say it. Sometimes you win some, sometimes you
yeah, I
lose some,
mean,
right?
you either gotta win, you gotta win a one on one, which yeah, you can always do better at that, winning your one on one, getting off of blocks, making a tackle, right? But you're always trying to scheme to try to get +1 in the box. And they got +1 because they pulled a guy. They pulled a guy from one side of the field to the other side of the field. So they have their +1. This guy's not going to be able to help you. So your +1 needs to get down here, and he can't because he's so far away.
Okay. Last little piece. Great hit by Malachi, who was a safety at that point. He laid the wood on it. All right, so let's go back. Go back because this is the one. Probably, if there's any reason for us to go over a little bit and not show all the film, is that this one is just so intriguing to me. We talked about this when we were breaking down DeBoer's film while he was at Washington, um, and we also maybe did you talk about this with Ryan Fowler last week with the what's actually called vanilla and
Yeah,
base.
yeah, we
Yeah.
did. Yeah, I did because I was saying, much like, matter of fact, I give you my little anecdote today. Right, this is day 3 of spring. Right, so we're going through our vanilla stuff. We're just starting to handle motions, and Granado comes out today in a double tight end set, and it's like, dude, like we're just trying to figure out how to get lined up, and everybody's like, well, what am I supposed to do? We both can't get in sevens, and like, yeah, you can't. But here we go, going through run period with these weird formations, and now you got DeBoer doing the same thing uh, with 1, 2, 3, 4 receivers on one side with an eligible tackle, which I don't know the college rules. He may not actually be eligible. But you got 4 receivers on one side,
Yes.
back the strong side, and right now this guy is not eligible because he's on the ball.
Okay. So, and when you're looking at the defense, you already kind of go, they're not really lined up right in my mind, just because of you got the 3 and the 5 over here, and you got 2 extra gaps
Yeah, you
over
got
there.
two open gaps. You got 2
So,
bubbles on the same side. Yeah,
yeah.
that's not good.
No, no. So I don't know. But anyway, so they started out with this. When I first saw this, I immediately said this to Ryan. I was like, "Did you see that?" That's what I'm saying. Our eyesight is a little bit different than what other people are looking at, because I saw this when it actually was happening. Then they shift the running back over to the right side of the quarterback and move the tight end, so we can show this when JT is play. Um, for the shift, so you can actually see what just happened. So now they're back in a regular, normal offensive set.
Yeah, and then they shift out, and now
Yeah,
now they're going the wrong way.
way. Yes, they
Like
shift back.
you were fine. You were
Well,
fine.
I don't know. I think they're shifting to a shade 5-9, or is that a corner down here in the
No, that's a
bottom?
corner,
Oh yeah, that's not right then.
right?
Anyway, yeah, I think so. You one,
Maybe it's not.
two,
I don't
three,
know who
four,
7
five, six,
is.
7, 8, 9, 10.
There's a guy. There's a guy right here behind your head. Let me
Oh
see.
yeah,
Can I get rid of us?
he's
And
a DB.
linebacker.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, the thing that was intriguing to me is, one, that they ran this already in spring football. Were they doing this for our defense? Were they doing this so people have to study and see this because they know every opponent is actually kind of watching this like we are? And saying, all right, and they're doing in spring football. So the main thing is you got to be able to get lined up right on defense, because they could have snapped it from the other way too, right? All
Mhm.
right, let the play go so we can see what actually happened. Oh goodness. Isn't this basically the same doggone play, JT, that we just saw a minute ago with a whole lot
It
of smoke and
is. It
mirrors?
is. It
You
is the same play.
know.
Just the dude standing over here as a receiver now. Now, what's interesting to me though is the false read by the line, because the ball is not going where, like, if you're telling your linebackers, hey, you got to read flow, right? And we always talk about fast flow, slow flow, and mixed flow. And it's like, it's fast flow left, but the ball ain't going that way.
Hmm. So what he's talking about is those all the is really, so all the linemen are going left. You still got the puller going the other way. I mean, it's identical from a defensive standpoint, kind of, right? Or I don't know. In my eyes, it is.
What you
Other
mean,
than the
the
tight
same
end,
the play that we just showed before versus
yeah, the
this one?
offensive
Yeah.
play. Other than the tight end being
Yeah,
close.
it's the same play. You just, instead of having a guy standing out here, he's right here now, and instead of a back right here, he's over here, and you still get the same action.
Yes. So what would be interesting? What I wish I could sit in on a meeting or something, and you can see how he actually calls this kind of stuff. Does it almost end up being the same? Because you got two shifts and a motion, but the play is exactly the same, essentially. So the linemen know they're doing the same stuff. Now he was getting ready to trap that in, and maybe that's because it's I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's the right read by the quarterback. Give it and
Mm-hmm.
and let him go. And they ran this a couple times out of different things. So I thought this was a great play. I think it's difficult on defense. You're a defensive coordinator now. It just seems like that's going to be hard to try to teach guys how to be sound.
Yeah. We played a team that kind of did that, at least ran a similar play like that, except they had a heavy tendency. Basically, anytime that dude went in motion, they were giving him the ball. So thankfully I didn't have to think that hard. It was just like, look, if he goes in motion, we're checking the coverage and you're gonna become defensive end and just hit that dude. He's getting the ball. I think they ran it, of all the plays that we had, they ran it 25 times. They ran that motion 25 times, and 24 of them they handed the ball off. And only one time did they fake it and try to throw it over your head. So I was like, yeah, we're gonna tackle that dude whether he has the ball or not. But at this level, they know those tendencies. That's happening. It's gonna be a little bit tougher to defend.
All right. Well, let's try to get another one in for.
Yes, this is the pass. So from play one, right? Your push crack, and we were talking about him running across the field like this, right? Mm-hmm.
T.
No comments on that. I think
Uh,
I think maybe folks lost your audio there for a minute because I took us off the screen. My fault, but we're back.
oh, my fault.
Yeah, that's okay. You were giving Milroe praise. I heard you at least. So
Okay. Yeah, I was just saying it's a great throw by Milroe in the intermediate screen. If you or throw, if you missed that. Last year we talked about him not being able to throw the 10, 15, 18-yard pass accurately. That was an accurate throw right in that window, which would be different from last year. I think that was a great statement made by him that not only can I throw the deep ball, but I can get this one in too. That was the only point I was trying to make about that. Okay, so which one you want to talk about before we get Charlie in? You want to talk
I
about
think
this
we
one
can get.
or
I
the
think we can
preference?
get these two pretty quickly.
All right.
So this one, I think we saw this at different times, right? Because I was over at your house, and you asked me. So I'm sitting on the floor playing with the kids, and you're sitting on the couch looking at the film, and you said, who is number 0? And when you said that, this is the exact play that was in my head. And I was like, I'm not sure who it is, but I don't know where he was going. And for the first half of the game, it looked a lot like this a lot of times. The second half looked a little bit better, but for the life of me, I still don't understand why he crosses over the formation and even past his linebacker here.
Yes, because the read, he should be stepping right in that hole right there. I mean, I think that's what you.
Yeah,
What you're
I'm
choosing, he
saying,
needs to take
he
that window.
should be closing this window right here. And there are going to be some people that say, well, there's a gap right here. Well, that's what this dude's here for. He can fold in the B gap, or you probably got somebody coming in right here.
Yes, but that's also I'll go to just a higher level that, and maybe if you go back, it's go back where is 96 shaded on this tackle. See, so he ends up getting out of. He's actually in the ABC gap, so he actually gets reached. Oh no, the B gap.
B gap.
So when you watch, he actually ends up in the C. Because he goes out.
Yeah, yeah.
So he goes out.
Yeah,
he
that's
took
not
a
good
he
either.
took a bad step. So he's supposed to be in that gap. 28 should be in the A gap, and 0 should be in the other A gap.
Yes, and this is what happens when you vacate your gap. Look how big that hole is.
Oh yeah, now he gone. So that's a mental error, right? I mean, those kind of mistakes you really can't make at this level. I know he's a hell of a player, right? But right now, that's I would categorize it as a coach. I'd be saying that's a lack of trust in your guys because now he actually jumps essentially into the backside B gap from the front side A gap to the backside B gap. If we're going to be very technical, because he's on the other side of the guard now, who's kind of cutting him.
He ends up he essentially blocks himself.
Yeah, that can't happen. We can't allow that. So when we're talking about what does the defense have to work on and this kind of stuff, these are the things that they're going to have to be trying to fix in the offseason. All right. I know you got another play.
Yep, last one. This was one that I was kind of like happy for a second. I was like, "Oh, look at that! We got some pretty good DB play." It was still a good play at the end. I don't want to take that away from him. But then when they showed the replay, I was like, "Oh, so he did just kind of get like toasted inside, though." So we're actually gonna get just like this seam route by the tight end, and he's actually gonna stem Dre Kirkpatrick Jr. outside, and there's no safety help. Since there's no
Zero.
since there's no help in the middle of the field, this can't happen.
Which we did predict a lot of this, by the way. If you watch the film, that we were saying you were going to get a lot of cover 0 down in the red zone by Womack, and it did show up. And so you cannot be outside where he is. He's a full man outside, and he is not even turned.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's a full man outside. He's not turned. He doesn't get his hands on him. If this ball is thrown on time, this is the easiest pitch and catch touchdown that you can throw right in the middle of the field. You don't even have to throw it at the receiver. You just need to throw it like somewhere in the end zone.
It's somewhere over there.
Because there's so much grass out here.
Well, you say a lot of grass, but there really wasn't a lot of grass on our field. Did you see that damn thing? That thing is horrible, man. I don't know. John O gave me the scoop on what was happening. I'm hearing we're getting new grass, new sod put in, and it should look a whole lot better. But man, it wasn't in good shape to be on the ESPN game. Yeah. Okay,
so if this ball is on time and or in the middle of the field like it's supposed to be, this is a touchdown and not an interception. It is a great recovery, all that kind of stuff. But
good hands.
Good hands. But let me tell you, when um, I don't know, Arch Manning or what's the kid's name? Quinn Ewers is out there throwing that ball. That's going. That's a touchdown every time.
Mhm. All right, man. Thank you guys for that film session. I want to go ahead and bring in our very special guest here. It'll be the first time he's on the show, I believe. I don't think we've had him on before. And I'm thanking him for actually, just accepting our invitation to be able to talk to us about Alabama football and what's going on around the SEC. So, Charlie Potter, we want to welcome him. He's a senior team writer for Bama Online. He's also with On Three Sports. He covers Alabama football and basketball. He does so much, man. He has all the hot takes. He's right in with everything. And, man, Charlie, we need to give you a round of applause for bringing on in Teague's take. Yeah, so thank you for being patient with us with the film. I don't know if did you get to see any of that in the backstage? Can you see what we were talking about a little bit, Charlie?
Yeah, I could see everything. It was enlightening. I felt like I was going to school.
Well, good. Well, good. So, are you based out of Tuscaloosa or?
Yes, sir. I live in Tuscaloosa.
Okay, all right. Well, that's good. So do you go to the beach very often, or you?
Yeah, we're trying to get away this weekend. It's been a busy 4 months, as you can expect. It's been a wild 4 months. So I'm looking forward to some time off this weekend. I'm catching you guys before heading out of town.
Appreciate it. Can you tell me what's the closest beach really to Tuscaloosa you got to go to?
Closest beach would be Gulf Shores. We tend to go down to Destin, and that's our spot.
Okay. Well, I need to tell you and some others about a different kind of beach that you could go to. It's pretty cool, man. Right. So if you don't want to travel 2, 3, 4 hours, I don't know how. It's probably about 4 hours from you.
It's about
Probably
four.
about
Yeah,
4 hours. What if I told you that you could take 30 seconds to go out of your back door to get to your own beach in your backyard? Listen to this. Let me tell you about Beaches LLC. Yes, Beaches LLC is your source in the state of Alabama and the Florida Panhandle for exquisite quartz sand beach pools by Biodesign USA. A Biodesign beach sculpted pool is crafted with beach entries, customized seating areas, and swimming zones, and they all can be personalized to your swimming needs. The Biodesign swimming pool is meant to immerse you in your surrounding environment. The illusion of a truly beautiful beach can be created and extended onto the patio area, creating one seamless shore environment. Let them help you turn your dream backyard escape into reality with an eco-friendly, more durable, less time, and less expensive to maintain, totally customizable pool. To learn more about turning your dream into a reality, please visit their website at www.yourbackyardbeach.com. Now that's what I'm talking about, Charlie. We need something like that
that
in the house. You know what I'm talking about? We need something like that.
that was some smooth ad work. Let me tell you.
Well, I did the talking. JT did the rest of the work, the producing. Okay, so we want to talk to you about this stuff, right? So we just showed you some stuff from the spring game. Uh, I know what I thought we needed to see or have, but I kind of wanted to get your take on it. On what do you think after watching that? Is there a need, a specific position that you think the coaches should be focusing on right now? To make our team better, offense or defense or both.
It, I think Coach DeBoer kind of touched on it throughout the spring, multiple times. Even on defense, it's defensive back, and more importantly, corner. Just from a sheer number standpoint, Alabama went through the spring with 5 scholarship corners, and only one of those guys was on last year's roster, and that was Jaleel Hurley. And heck, we didn't see him until late in the spring game. It was Damani Jackson, the USC transfer, and then Xavier Brown, the true freshman, was opposite him. And then the next wave of guys was the other two true freshmen, Zay Mincy and Jalen Mbakwe. So they're talented dudes, but there's just not a lot of experience or numbers. And so, we've seen Alabama extend some offers to some guys in the portal. Ed Woods was a guy from Arizona State that I think they were looking at, but he ended up committing to Michigan State. So they've got some guys coming in this weekend that I think can help. And then on the offensive side of the ball, I think offensive line. From that standpoint, you lose a guy like James Brockermeyer at center. The tackle position's kind of in the same spot as corner with 5 scholarship players. Now you have Caden Proctor coming back, but during the spring they just had 4 true tackles. I know they moved some guys around and some guys worked at multiple positions, but I think offensive tackle and corner are kind of where it starts. And we've seen now, I mean, it's hindsight now. I thought it was something that maybe a dark horse position they could target, but kicker. They had a competition throughout spring and went out and got the best kicker in the nation. So that was a neat address. But I think tackle and corner are kind of really where it starts. And you could really mention the whole offensive line and secondary in that same
So
breath.
when you said that some people were coming in this weekend, you know that they talked about who might come and visit. Can you share?
Yeah, the two that are expected to visit are Isaiah Hamilton, the corner from Houston. He's 6'1", 175, and then Deshaun Jones from Wake Forest, 6 foot, 181. So it's a couple of experienced guys. I think Hamilton's probably a little better, and that's just from the very basic online research that I've done
Which
on the
one you
two.
say you like better?
Uh,
Just in your short research?
Hamilton, the kid from
Houston.
Houston. I think they both can come in and help because really you just need numbers there. Because I think you could use an experienced starter that could certainly help, but you kind of need to revamp the depth at corner. And it's interesting because I believe Isaiah Hamilton's from Channelview. So, or he went to school at Channelview. That's Jalen Hurts' old stomping ground. So that might help out Alabama a little when you look at it, connection there. But I think they're both set to visit this weekend. And then they also have, it's not one of the positions we talked about, but um, a linebacker from South Alabama, Khalil Jacobs. He knows Kane Wommack's defense, and it's linebacker is not necessarily as much of a need as corner, safety, offensive tackle, center, or whatever. But you look at the two guys they have in Deontay Lawson and Jihaad Campbell. Both those guys missed time last year. So did Trez Marshall with injury. So to have a guy that knows his defense and is not only experienced but productive, I think that could be a benefit to this defense, and it's looking like they want to add him too.
Okay. Well, that's pretty cool. And JT,
I've got a
yeah.
couple of questions. One from Ephraim
Okay.
Davis about center depth. Um, with Brockermeyer out, like how many centers do we have on the roster now? And do they need to try to go get another one, or do you think they'll probably just try to maybe move some guys around on the line and kind of cross train that way?
True centers is kind of a tricky question because I don't know how many like that number seems to not be as concrete as some other spots like tackle or corner like we were talking about. Having Parker Brailsford come in, I know he's a guy that didn't play for half of the spring, if not more, because of some off the field stuff he was dealing with. But I think seeing James Brockermeyer enter the portal kind of shows what the coaching staff thinks of what will be Parker Brailsford's situation this fall. I think that's good news on Parker's front. Is what I'm trying to get at. Beyond that, though, there's not a ton of experience. I think the most experienced guy that got reps there was Rock Montgomery, and he's a guy I think played one, maybe 2 games last year as a reserve. He played some guard, can play center. Joe Ionata, a true freshman, got some work at center in the spring game and throughout the spring, and he's someone I thought showed some flashes, but he's just a true freshman. You don't know really what you're going to get from that standpoint. Um, Casey Poe is one of the nation's top interior linemen. I think many envisioned he would be at center to start his career, but he's someone we saw at right tackle during the spring game. So they have some versatility. I think even Tyler Booker mentioned something about taking some snaps this spring. I know Coach Kapilovic, the offensive line coach, had mentioned that he wants 7, 8 guys working at center, snapping the ball in practice, just because you never know what you're going to be dealing with from that standpoint. So it's the numbers kind of it's up in the air. I don't know true centers how many exactly there are, but there's off the top of my head you've got I think William Sanders also did too, another true freshman. So beyond Parker Brailsford, who was a true freshman last year and who missed half the spring because of what he was dealing with off the field, it's either second year players who were reserves and played in 1, 2 games maybe, or incoming true freshmen. So it could be a situation where they look to add center depth, but numbers are limited. I think they might be two under that 85 right now, give or
Mhm.
take a specialist or two. So it's going to be tough. They might just rule
So
those
what?
guys out.
And I'm hearing, and I'm asking this to both of you, okay? And I'll let maybe JT go first. Just we're talking about the corner spot. We know how important it is, man. We're watching these LSU guys get drafted. Did they have 3 wide receivers go in the first round, or 2 quarterbacks and or one
Yeah,
quarterback and two
one
wide
quarterback, two
receivers?
wide receivers.
So we know how important it is. You got to have some people that can cover. I don't know that we had enough top end speed there, and we did recruit some this year. My point is though, what about this Husky position, man? Are we good, or the down safety spots? JT, do you feel like we're good there?
No,
Or should that be a priority more than the corner? Or you just gotta know you just gonna take you a year or two.
I think, and maybe this is just how I operate as a defensive coordinator. I think that Husky position is kind of crucial, because he's got to do more than just cover, right? You're relying on him to be in the run fit a lot of the time, but also be able to run with the slot. Like he's being asked to do a lot, um, and I'm not sure that they have found exactly who they want there. I think they would prefer somebody with more experience, to be in that kind of role. I don't know that. I don't know that I would trust. Definitely not a true freshman yet, unless he's, I don't know, maybe Minka Fitzpatrick as a true freshman, could have handled it. But that's not normally a spot that you want to put fresh blood at.
All right. So Charlie, are you allowed to give personal stuff on there without just your analytics and all that kind of stuff? How do you feel about?
Uh, I take probably a little bit more of a glass half full approach because, going into the spring or when Kane Womack was brought in, you kind of thought maybe that's a spot Malachi Moore could fill. And that's before Caleb Downs entered the portal. Obviously, things changed, and Malachi worked at safety in the spring, and that sounds like what he's going to do in the fall. But I do think that Devontae Smith is someone that he was poised to play a larger role last year. He was kind of working with the ones in fall camp and then kind of at that dime spot in Nick Saban's defense, and then he got hurt, and then I think he missed like 9 games. He played the back end as a reserve and on special teams, but he's someone that the coaches raved about during the spring. I think he's still kind of coming back from that injury, maybe not 100%. He was the guy that played with the ones in the 8A game. I agree though with Red Morgan coming in as a true freshman. I think he impressed. I think they like what they saw, but to put that on a true freshman that isn't on the caliber of Minka Fitzpatrick, that's tough. And we know that the Minkas don't grow on trees. And so I do think, though, getting a guy like Cam Howard, the transfer from Charlotte who committed earlier this week, he can maybe be someone that they look at there if they don't feel comfortable with the options they already have on the roster. He's a guy that he's in his second year in college, played a lot last year, albeit at Charlotte, but someone that they coveted out of the transfer portal. So they're adding options there because I think in the back end with Malachi and Keon Sabb, you feel pretty good with what you have. But you're right that the Husky position, similar to how the star was in Nick Saban's defense, is important, and you got to lock that
Okay,
one down.
I'm curious, and this is not one that I said I would want to ask, but how much, or do we know? Do we have any kind of inclination of on this recruiting trail? Is this all DeBoer's job? What is Nick Saban still in the wind back there, just kind of telling guys to come on, or I don't know. Not that I care about it. I know people wonder: is Nick Saban just sitting in the office, or is he really trying to help these guys get here, or what is his role with this recruiting?
I, I think when he's asked to help, he does. I think he's taking more of a standoffish approach in terms of just not being the guy, over Kalen DeBoer's shoulder. I know he has that office at Bryant Denny. We only went to 3 practices in the spring. That's all that was open to reporters. Never saw Nick Saban out there. I mean, he played a lot of golf this spring, so I don't think he was just sitting around with his arms crossed and watching every practice. But heck, at A-Day, they have the ceremony over at Denny Chimes, and he showed up, of course, for the captain ceremony and was shaking hands, talking to recruits. I think he helps where he can, but I don't think he's just he's calling recruits or anything like
Okay.
that.
JT, you want to answer Jono's question?
Yeah, I'll put that up here. John asks, "Do you think a positive of the portal is allowing a kid like Hamilton can start at a SWAC school, transfer to a program like Houston, and then put himself in a position to transfer to a top 20 program?"
I think it's beneficial. I think if you're looking at the transfer portal, players, it makes sense to climb to continue to build value for yourself. And if you've played at a place like Houston and had a successful career, and then a place like Alabama is looking for help, and a place like Alabama, they're not just looking most of the time for just pieces, for warm bodies. They're looking for guys that can come in and immediately contribute. So if he can come in and build value for himself and for the NFL draft, I think it makes a lot of sense because you look at just the past several drafts, you've had guys going the first 2 days. You had Jermaine Burton this past year. You had Jameer Gibbs go round one, Jamison Williams, Landon Dickerson. That's just off the top of my head. I don't have the list in front of me. So I know those guys, a lot of those guys came from Power Five programs, but a guy like Jalen Key, I know he was Mr. Irrelevant, but he goes on and gets drafted after a year at Alabama. So it can be beneficial. And for this team, with what they need in the secondary, if you can come in and be an immediate starter at corner, you're going to get a lot of playing
Do
time and
you
a lot of
think though?
exposure.
I'm saying I kind of feel like it. I'm asking you guys. So if you want to know my opinion, it just seems like lower level schools, D2, smaller D1s, maybe not the strongest programs, are they really like becoming like feeder schools for these ultra mega conferences
Mm-hmm.
that we're about to have because of the portal? They're getting the older guys, and then you got to go to another smaller school to work your way up. If that is happening, how the hell do those coaches feel at that level? We're always talking about trust in the people you're trying to sell your program, or you're just accepting like, man, I just need to develop this guy because he's going to leave and go to Georgia or Alabama or something in a year or two.
No,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think that's exactly what it is. Go ahead.
I think they've kind of always been feeder schools. They just haven't particularly been so high profile. Maybe the kids that were transferring don't usually go as high as like national contenders, but I think they've always been kind of sifting up while um, teams are also transferring. Their reserves are transferring down. Um, I mean, as a matter of fact, there were some guys that we played Montana State my sophomore year at Drake, and I think they had two corners that had transferred from Texas up to Montana State. How they got to Montana State, I have no idea, but they were the number 3 team in the country at that time. Um, and that was kind of just normal, and we should have beat them, and I'm still mad about it. But
Is that why you talk about it?
But yeah, I think it's always kind of been that way. We know JUCOs have always kind of operated that way, and there's probably just a handful of schools, maybe the North Dakota states and South Dakota states, that aren't like losing players up that way. But Eastern Washington, I think, probably had a couple of. I can think of at least 2 quarterbacks. I can't remember their names, but one of them went to Oregon, and the other one's at I said Washington State. I meant Eastern Washington has lost a lot of players to like Oregon and Washington State and things like that. So it happens. I think it's just probably more high profile now.
You feel the same way, Charlie?
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like that's always been the case, but it's ramped up a little bit. You're not going to see many guys like Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo who went to the Eagles in the first round. Nick Saban even mentioned it on the ABC broadcast that was a guy that they were hoping jumped in the portal because that was their number one guy on their board from a corner standpoint. These coaches are watching film. They have guys that's their job to go out and evaluate these smaller schools and players that they'd like to add to their roster at certain positions. And so it's tough for smaller programs, whether it's group of 5, Division 2, whatever level.
A lot of
It
people
just
are trying to say
happens.
that's a little fishy, JT. That Saban is saying he checking out Quinion Mitchell at Toledo and hoping he's gonna get in the portal. What are we saying there, Charlie?
I will say this though about that. You have to do that. You have to do your due diligence. You have to watch film. That's what a guy like I know it wasn't this past year, but when the portal kind of became what it is now, you had Sal Sinceri. That was his job to look at players in the portal for potential additions to this roster. Of course, it doesn't mean that you're
Well,
in
he
contact
wasn't
with
in
these
the
guys, but you're
portal. Is
watching
my
them.
point. He wasn't in the
I know,
portal.
but like
What do you mean?
you can't just be like, well, here's a corner from X university. Let's see if he's worth the shit. You know what I mean? Like you have to be able to go out and scout beforehand to be like, maybe these are guys that we look at in the portal. Now, is it tampering? Who's to say? I don't know that side of things, but you have to do your due diligence ahead of time because you have to fill your roster out with
What
some
I'm hearing you
experienced
say,
guys.
and this is what I'm taking this, and I don't have a feeling strongly one way or another about it. But what it does appear, if your methodology is true, it's becoming like a pro system. That's what they do. They're not trying
Mhm.
to go pluck the guy from the Browns, but they got every evaluation of every person around it just in case he gets cut or they need to make a trade or something of that nature. That's what I'm hearing um, Mr. Potter
Yeah.
say. Although I do think it's a lot harder because your number of schools is super hard. You got to have some kind of data.
Well,
Somebody has to be
we've
what?
seen what exactly is in PFF that
That is
there,
true.
and we know somebody
Good point.
whose job was to do exactly what we're talking about, where they're writing reports and making cut ups and all kinds of stuff of potential guys in the portal or guys that are already in the portal, and they're saying, hey, we need a tight end, and they've got cut ups of 60 kids and they got 20 plays just looking and trying to see whether or not they can fit on the roster or not if the opportunity arises.
Can I elaborate on that a little bit? Just because people are going to be trying to figure out what we're talking about. PFF, Pro Football Focus, or I guess not even pro, or was it considered pro? Um,
It is.
so one of the things that they do in there that is really, really good that we are able to see is what JT just said. That there are universities who have people that they're tasked with exactly what JT said. They're looking at grades, they're looking at things, and they're starting to pull data, and they make this little folder of, hey, just in case there's these 10 guys over here, we might want to be ready for if they come. It's kind of cool though, JT, to actually kind of see it because you get to see the red or the green lights and the yellows and
Yeah, it's like you can just like you can just be like, yeah, basically say, show me the top blank players at X position, and then it's like there they are. They're
right.
right here. Oh, but I only want them to be at G5 schools because we're probably not going to get any Power 5 guys. Well, here you go. Here's another report. And this is how well they do each one of these skills at random analytics. And then, oh, by the way, here's every play that they played this season. You can just watch it, which is wild.
Yes, pretty doggone amazing, honestly. And speaking of that, in this film and the recruiting piece and all that, what about this? So Washington has 10 guys get drafted, same amount Alabama had. Is it? I mean, is DeBoer like? Could there be a better situation for him where he has all these guys from his former school getting drafted, Penix getting drafted? We're just talk about Michael a little bit later, but this how big of an impact on the recruiting trail is it for him to be able to say, "Hey, I just had all these other guys get drafted." Charlie,
No, I think he's Kalen DeBoer's a huge winner in this NFL draft because you had the guys at Washington that he was able to coach and develop. Then you also have Alabama's still churning out talent. We'll see what happens next year with the draft. These way too early mock drafts are always kind of a crapshoot, so they're not very high on Alabama right now. But I do think that with what he's been able to do with quarterbacks, with wide receivers, it doesn't seem like what Alabama's been able to do here of late is going to stop anytime soon. We'll see what happens with the defensive backs and some of those guys on the defensive front seven, but I think it shows that he can bring in talent, develop that talent, and then get them drafted in the top 100 picks. You look at it, what was it? their 3 wide receivers, Penix, and both their offensive tackles were top 100 draft picks. So they had the best offense in the nation. And I know I've seen on Twitter a lot of people talk about, well, he had great players. It's like, well, they were in that offensive system. They brought Michael Penix to Washington. Like, Kalen DeBoer and this staff, guys like Jamarcus Shepard and Nick Sheridan had a big hand in what they were able to do offensively. So I think just from a Washington standpoint, he's a huge winner. But then just to see still the ungodly numbers that Nick Saban's put up in this draft with 47 first round picks, 133 overall draft picks over 17 years is absurd. And they continue just to churn out a lot of talent. So to have 20 players overall to be able to walk into a recruit's house or to a transfer and visit and just put that on the table, it's wild. I think I added it up. Just the contract worth of Alabama's 10 players was almost $95 million combined. Their signing bonuses was close to 40. So these are numbers that are going to be printed and given to guys from a recruiting standpoint, and they're going to use it for sure. That and what happened up in Seattle.
That's pretty good. JT, you feel one way or another about, is it just status quo that he had the guys from Washington, or is it a big deal?
Oh, I mean, I think that it's a big deal because at Washington, you don't feel like NFL talent comes from Washington. You think about NFL talent and the Pac-12, or the conference formerly known as the Pac-12. You think, you think, Oregon and USC, right? And then Washington's kind of the guys who always gave other people a hard time, but never really won anything until you go back, I guess, probably the 90s, maybe the 80s. Can't remember which decade they had their time in, but as of recently, you can, the talent they did have, the one that I do remember is John Ross, which wasn't great for John Ross. I mean, I'm glad he made it and all that kind of stuff, but his career wasn't as long as he would have liked it to be, I'm sure. So having 10 guys from that roster is a big deal, because that's probably something that you can put in your recruiting cap there. We got a viewer question from Justin. He says, Charlie, we as fans tend to focus on the wrong thing because that's what's trending. What is something we need to see that's not being talked about? And then I have a follow-up question.
It's a good question. Okay. Some positivity. I know that this is mainly football talk, but basketball's having a hell of a run right now from a roster standpoint. That's been positive. That's taken up a lot of time. Heck, I was supposed to be on the podcast with you guys during the Final Four run, but I had to unfortunately reschedule because of trip to Phoenix. So that's been positive. I do think, though, when you look at, I know there was a lot of talk about this portal window. It was supposed to be just chaos, and Alabama, the portal's closed. They still have there's time. I think they still have through tomorrow where things can kind of trickle out. We've seen guys enter the portal, but Alabama lost 4 players. The guys went through spring practice. They were able to get a feel for the coaching staff and then looked elsewhere. I don't think there was really, from an Alabama standpoint, many surprises in the 4 that left. So for people thinking it was going to be maybe a mass exodus from the program, to lose 4 after that, I think is solid. Now, you don't want to lose 2 safeties because we were talking about the depth there, but I don't think either Peyton Woodyard or Tony Mitchell was a surprise to Alabama. So from a good news standpoint, they had to lose some guys to bring some guys in, and they only lost 4. Now, Brockermeyer, that kind of stings a little from a depth standpoint. So does Tony Mitchell, Peyton Woodyard. But for those expecting just mass chaos, Alabama to lose a bunch of players, again, it didn't really happen once Kalen DeBoer was in town.
The follow-up, JT?
The follow-up is, can you tell me about, because the recruiting out of high school right now, I feel like feels like 14 commitments, and they're all linebackers. Like every single one of them, every time it's some 4-star linebacker. So the follow-up question is, How many linebackers do we need? And why is it that it seems like every linebacker under the sun is committing to Alabama right now?
Yeah, that's a running joke on our message board. You look at it, they have, I'm looking at the list, one, two, three, four, five of their 10 commitments are linebackers. And funny enough, I don't really think any of those are playing the wolf position. So those are all off ball linebackers. So I think they're still going to add more for those that might be tired of the running linebackers, and maybe soon. But those are going to be more of your edge rushers. And then, we mentioned it at the top. You have Khalil Jacobs, who's going to visit and very likely could commit to Alabama, the South Alabama transfer. So I think when you look at the position, it's kind of stockpiling because you're probably going to lose both Deontay Lawson and you could lose Jihaad Campbell this offseason from an NFL draft standpoint. Um, you have Justin Jefferson, the junior college transfer. You have Jeremiah Alexander. You have three young guys, and one of those guys is from Germany who had a hell of a spring game in Joseph Okoronkwo. So it is a little head scratching, but I think that they had guys at the top of their board and they were all kind of ready to commit right there in a row. And so I don't think they'll add any more off ball linebackers. We'll see some, maybe one or two edge rush types. But yeah, it's a question that you're not the first to ask it. And you're not the first to probably ask it today. So it's been a little bit of a running joke over at BOL.
Okay. Do you want to give him that last one? Then we'll let him get out of here in about 2 minutes, three
Yes,
minutes.
Will Reeves wants to know, why did Woodward leave?
Yeah, again, it kind of go back to obviously you had Nick Saban retire on the 10th. Kalen DeBoer comes in on the 12th of January. He's able to retain most of this signing class. He had two guys leave, and Julian Sayin and Jameer Grimsley. And then guys stuck around and went through spring practice and gave it an opportunity. He's the guy that his head coach left, his position coach left. And you have Malachi Moore, you have Keon Sabb, and you have guys like Ray Hubbard, who I thought had a great A-Day game at safety, and some other players as well, Devontae Smith. So it's a situation where it didn't surprise Alabama. I think they expected this one after kind of the exit interview type things that went on, I believe, a week ago. And I know the optics of it, it happened on the same day that Cam Howard, the transfer from Charlotte, committed. But I don't think that was this happened so Peyton left. I think Alabama, whether Peyton Woodyard decided to enter the transfer portal or not, wanted to add depth there, and they were going to bring in a guy like Cam Howard. So it sucks because I think he's a talented young player. He comes from a great family. He's been great from a personality standpoint and an interview standpoint. But now he's going to head back closer to home. Looks like he's going to end up at Oregon, and that's just kind of you it kind of it's not all you can ask from these guys because there is a level of commitment that comes with it, loyalty. But he gave this new staff a chance in the spring, and then kind of
Okay.
moved on.
All right. That's good. Charlie, you got, I know you've been gracious with us and get us 10 extra minutes, but people want to ask you some questions. So I want to know if you can at least give us one. I don't know
Go
if you saw
ahead.
this other one here. It's more of a basketball portal question.
Yeah, it says, since Charlie brought up basketball, what are his thoughts on over 2,000 kids in the portal, almost 40% of NCAA basketball players?
Basketball's wild, man. I know that the the football portal is a hot topic, but basketball, heck, last year Alabama brought back three players that played on the 2022-2023 team, and now you lose six players to the portal. You have Mark Sears and Jaron Stevenson in the draft. You got good news from Grant Nelson coming back, or Latrell Wrightsville coming back, but you bring in four transfers, or no, three transfers. You're looking to add a big out of the portal. It's the wild, wild west in basketball, and it's always been a little different just in terms of roster turnover there. But it's kind of crazy to keep up with, and that portal actually ends or closes tonight at midnight. So there's again, you have that kind of 48-hour layover period that guys can pop in, but it's going to close soon. So you'll start to see some schools or some teams shore up, and Alabama's had some bigs that it's looked at, that it's visited,
Yes.
that it's had on campus, that they're going to look
Bigs.
to add a rim
Yes.
protector.
Bigs, please.
Yeah,
Bigs, please.
yeah. Preston Murphy, the assistant coach, he's been really teasing some folks on Twitter with that. But it's wild to see how many guys leave from everywhere. It's not just Alabama. I think like I don't even remember how many it was. I think at one point I saw Duke lost 7 or 8 guys to the
Yeah.
portal. That's Duke, so it's everywhere. And but I do know that for Alabama, there's been a kind of a new commitment to the basketball program, both from an NIL standpoint, from a facility standpoint. I'm not talking about a
No,
new
but you
arena.
talk
I'm
about a
not talking about a new
contract.
arena.
I see some new commitments with a contract.
Yeah, but it's a situation where Nate Oates kind of he didn't demand anything. There was some stuff that he was asking for before the season ended. He got him, and now he's reshaping this roster with a ton
Yeah,
of
he probably
talent. And
asked
they
for
should
a
be a
couple
lot of
new
fun to
coats and
watch.
all this kind of stuff. And it sounds like Charlie Porter's going to be up late tonight if that Porter's not closing to 12. So he probably got some kind of little reminder or something that is going to chime to wake him up. It would take John Anu Friedcheck to bring up basketball on Teague's take, and he know we're all about Alabama football on here. It's going to take it. There's always one guy, JT. There's always one guy. And that would be John. So Charlie, we thank you very much for your time. You guys make sure you guys look him up on Twitter, Charlie_Potter, right? Puts out a lot of stuff out there. Read all
Yes,
his
sir.
articles, all the stuff that he has going on. You can tell that he's all up in it. And we thank you that you have given us some time here. Is there anywhere else people need to find you? Or find your articles and things? Where are you all at, man? Where people can go get your stuff?
Yeah, I'm really just on Twitter
Oh yeah,
or,
my
or
bad.
X, whatever it's called these days. So it's that's where I post all my stuff, all my colleagues' stuff, anything of interest, and yeah, just over at
Okay.
BamaOnline.com is where all my articles are.
Charlie_Potter. Round of applause for Charlie. And it's time for us. Good night. Woo! You are the man. That man. Thank you again for your time, man. You have a good night, and we'll catch up, man. I look forward to just keeping in touch and being able to talk some football with you, throughout the course of the season as well.
Yeah, no
All
problem,
right,
guys.
we'll
This
see
was a
you
lot of
later,
fun.
brother.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.